Need a motion and a second to reconvene our public portion.
Motion.
So, all in favor? Aye. Can everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And after the pledge, please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our servicemen and women.
I pledge allegiance to this flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the district clerk please call roll?
Mr. Amorando?
Present.
Mr. Ferrioli?
Here.
Mrs. Oculus? Present. Mr. Grable?
Here.
Mrs. Kennedy? Dr. Adams? Present. Mr. Nucci?
Present.
Mrs. Donnelly? Present. Mrs. Manzi?
Present.
Mr. Middleman?
Present.
And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I don't believe we have any changes. Meeting agenda. So we'll go right to E, the public hearing. Mrs. Donnelly?
I have a presentation just to get the conversation going.
Is that online, Sharon?
It is. It is actually right now.
Okay, good, thank you.
This is a review, and this is the same presentation that's been given at civics and at PTA meetings, although some of my colleagues do it more verbally than with a PowerPoint. Here we see last year's revenues, which of course equal the expenditures, they have to, of 187.4 million. You see the sources, taxes of 122 million, 0.2, and the same amount for 18-19. The budget at 192.8 approximately for 18-19. You can see here that last year our 122.2 was at the tax levy cap. This year we're below the cap. We're at 0. Our cap is 3.87 according to the calculation. I had talked about a 5.92, but I had to reclass that 2.499 million for the doors out of allowing us to tax more, because it was decided that that money should come from fund balance. So that reduces the cap from what I last said was 5.92 to what I had previously presented as 3.87. The doors having no impact then on the levy. But regardless, in either case, it was a 0 increase. So last year we saw the estimated impact to somebody's monthly taxes was $8.67, and this year there's no impact. The only thing that could cause that to change is a fluctuation in your own assessed value. And in fact, the district's total assessed value increased, so you may see a reduction.
That's based on 50,000, that said?
Yeah, last year, that's the average.
So this year is based on 50?
50, and this year it's 0 for everybody. No increase for anybody, unless of course you increased your assessed value since last year by having an addition to your home or some other taxable event. Here we just see the history of what our tax levy increase has been over the last several years. This is just a slide to show that the increase in the budget here from 17-18 to 18-19 is being funded by an increased use of reserves and of appropriated fund balance, which is why we're able to keep the tax levy increase at 0. Also, there was an increase in state aid, a small increase in state aid. Whether we have the security doors or not, I was showing here that the levy was not changing. It was 0%. And that's with a passed budget, which would allow for the security doors, or a failed budget without security doors. If we had to go to contingency, we'd still have the 0 increase to the budget.
I have a question on that screen.
Sure.
On miscellaneous income, you have a little over $3.1 million. On the rental prop, could you just give me an idea of who falls under that? Who's
Can you
paying?
put your microphone on, Marilyn?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Who's paying for rental would be BOCES
Okay.
for the building at Prem, the new portion of Prem. Okay? And that makes up quite a bit of the miscellaneous
So
revenue.
are they,
Also, pilots are in there.
also the pilots are, because I think the pilots run about $2 million.
That's correct.
So if the pilots are about $2 million, okay, and then you have a 3.1 million. So I'm assuming, because you have all these other variables, that there's not a lot of money in rental income.
Well, off the top of my head, 300, 400,000, but I could tell you the exact.
And that all comes from, majority of that's BOCES, or is there any other entities that pay towards that? I mean, you don't have to give, if you just, only if you remember offhand.
I imagine facilities use, but I could tell you that for sure.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
These are the highlights of the curriculum and instruction program initiatives that are all included in this year's budget. Literacy-rich classrooms, continued PD in writing, benchmarking and guided reading and math, increased number of parent workshops, a new math resource, which is an additional text in grades 6 through 8, the implementation of a computer science and engineering academy at the high school, introduction of Kidoyo, the creation of innovation labs and maker spaces at all of the elementary schools, the introduction of AP capstone at the high school, phase 1 of a K-12 Chromebook initiative, and expanded use of Google Classroom to include grades 6 through 12.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there, because I have, actually, my questions are more directed towards Dean on this one. So when you speak about the initiative of the 1,800 Chromebooks district-wide, can you elaborate on that, please?
So tentatively, we budgeted for an allotment for the secondary schools by department. For the high school by department, for the middle schools by grade level, and then similar to that at the elementary, so it'll be by grade level. So there'll be multiple parts per grade level depending on the size of the building in the elementaries. Same for the 2 middle schools, the equal number of parts per grade level. And then departmentally, we'll allocate parts at the high school, so they'll have access to those.
Now, is the idea to go forward with eventually children having Chromebooks to take home and alleviate some of the books?
We are having many conversations. We have a technology committee that's coming together this Friday to discuss that with representatives of our instructional staff, our administrative staff. So we're talking about the direction the district is going. Right now, we put a lot of emphasis on our infrastructure, and we updated all of our wireless throughout the district. And it's a conversation that we're having. As of right now, the plan is to give as much access to the teachers with the parts as possible, but it doesn't preclude us from moving to a one-on-one initiative at some point.
Okay, and I have a second question, because this was in the budget notebook. Computer Science and Engineering Academy at the high school. So can you just give me an idea of what that looks like?
So again, under the superintendent's direction, several years ago, we started to look at our elective courses in the high school. And we have a variety of different elective courses in different areas that are not connected to anything. So the goal is to connect those unconnected electives and to create an experience for students starting generally in sophomore year all the way through senior year. So the computer science and engineering, students would take courses in robotics, they would take courses in computer science, all the way up to the culmination of the AP computer science class.
Now, at the end of this, would the children receive any kind of certification or any type of documentation to say that they completed, you know,
We could do something on the local level, but there's no designation, there's no CTE designation for computer science.
Now, how do we, do other districts do like a designation, or is that just?
You can get some certifications in some of the languages, which is something that we offer here as well, but no designation that is recognized by New York State.
Now, does BOCES provide something? If these children went through the engineer program through BOCES, are they walking out with a certification of any type?
I'll have to look, but my understanding is that they have the certification in the different languages. But I'll investigate that.
Okay, because I just want to understand why, so you're creating the academies just so that the kids would have a more clear pathway to
Yes.
to accomplishing something.
Yes.
But we don't know exactly what it is they're accomplishing.
Well, they're having a full, rich experience. Instead of just taking isolate courses that have no connection to each other, the goal is that it gives children multiple pathways to go from when they enter in freshman year all the way through senior year. So it gives them a chance, instead of it being, if you look at it from a college perspective, it's not a liberal arts education, they're getting more of a targeted focus, kind of a mini major, so that they can have an experience, hopefully, either to enter the workforce after high school, or if they choose to go on to college, it gives them an idea that this is something that I definitely want to study and pursue.
So is there anything that we could do for these students that actually go on this course? Because if they're completing what is necessary for this academy, could there be a recognition for any of these children that do complete these academies? I understand what you're saying, it can't be designated on the diploma, but could it be, you know, so it would, I would believe that.
We could look at some sort of certificate.
Yeah, I would believe that this way it would say something to other children, maybe promote the program more to go through this track.
Well, what we could do is when students apply to schools, we can have a description of the program that they've enrolled in. So they actually get a packet that goes to every college that describes the high school, the offerings, the demographics. It's actually almost like a brochure that says, this is Connecticut High School if you've never met a student from it. One of the things that we can put in that brochure are the different academies that were available to students, so that the admissions office would actually know that the kids made sure that they took advantage of those opportunities. So that could be something that could be added to our application process for our kids.
Okay, I have one last question. It has the enhanced maker spaces in all the libraries. Is that previous to the bond, I call it the bond committee, I know it's not really a bond committee. Is this previous to that work that's being discussed?
It's
Okay.
actually the purchasing of the materials. So we wouldn't be changing the actual footprint of the library until the bond committee decides that that's what they want, the facilities advisory committee. But it is purchasing materials so that there's more in-depth things for kids to do.
So we currently have them in each of our libraries, and we're looking to enhance that experience so that becomes part of the instructional.
Thank you.
So, when the classes that they're taking in the academy, they're listed on their transcript, correct?
Yes.
But they're individual.
Yes.
Is it allowed that we could list somewhere on there that they completed the academy? So that would correspond with what Linda's talking about, because then the person would be able to go into the academy and see all the courses and know that that person has completed that. You know,
We'll look and explore all those options.
yeah, whatever works best to make it clear,
Okay.
so that when the college gets all that information, it's a lot easier if they see, oh yeah, completed such and such an academy, and then they can look in that, guide and say, okay, here's the courses, without having to thumb through and figure out, what course is what with the
To
academy.
highlight.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would make a lot more sense.
Definitely.
If we can do that.
I have a question. In the business, I don't know if it's considered an academy or that class.
Our business academy, yes.
Is it an academy, or did you build upon that? Is there an advertising class, or is it just still that same thing?
We are still going through the same thing. I know that this year they're looking at a program audit, so they're looking at reviewing the academy as a whole to see the validity of what's currently being offered and to see if there's other things that we could add to it. We've spoken about connecting some of our English classes to it, creating electives through our English department that would benefit, similar to what you're talking about with the advertising piece and merchandise.
But it's a series of courses, it's not just that one course.
Well, you have to take other classes in order to get them.
Yeah, yes.
But there's
That's
not,
the capstone experience.
right, but that didn't really flourish or build out. Because they all take a little piece of a business, but
Right, so they have requirements that they have to fulfill prior to the virtual enterprise.
But,
We have two sections, full sections that have virtual enterprise. So
right,
that's-
but there's still more that that can happen other than the two sections. Out of that, you have an advertising expense, which is big, or, you know, because they do a little piece of that and we never win. When we go into the city, when they do their stick, they have to advertise their product. And that's a whole class, right?
So I have another question. From somebody who comes from the city schools, at the high school level, there applied entrances to certain specialized high schools. So this is somewhat a smaller model of, they have their bigger model, you're trying to create a smaller model of that. Have you looked at some of the specialized high schools? That there is an engineering high school, there is a math and science high school. Can you look and see how their program is designed? And are we following that same protocol? And what do they do at the end of the 4 years? Because you have Brooklyn Tech, which is technology and everything. I believe those kids do walk out with something. You have Newark High School, they're known for their humanities and sciences and medical. I could go through a whole different high schools at the city. But at the end of the day, I believe those children walk out with something. They're tested into the program and they're walking out with something.
Okay, I will look into that.
Okay, last slide is about the transfer to capital, which is just shy of $5 million. And about half of it is for the security door initiative. And the other district-wide improvements that are being made with the remainder of the remaining money, the 2.5 that remains, is addressing asbestos tiles and replacing them with VCT tiles, more work on the HVAC system and temperature controls to build on what's been done already. And then specific to these schools, there are capital improvements to be made. Creation of a new life skills suite in rooms 174, 175, septic system upgrades at OBMS, new passenger elevators at both middle schools, ceiling heating units at Cherokee in the hallway, the corridor, and more asbestos removal and an acoustical treatment in the gymnasium, and then some work also at Pratt. This is the voting day, so we're asking that you come out and vote.
Thank you, Sharon, for all your hard work on this. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Ms. Donnelly. Okay.
So I'm just going to review what is actually on the ballot on, we have 3 propositions. Proposition number 1 is the 2018-19 budget, which Mrs. Donnelly just presented. Proposition number 2 is the naming of this building for Helen Maloney. And proposition number 3 is the potential to increase the Board of Education from 5 sitting members to 7 sitting members. Those are the 3 propositions that you will be voting on next week.
Moving on to number 2, this is the public comment on the public hearing only. This section of the agenda gives the Board of Education an opportunity to recognize persons who wish to raise a question or to make a brief statement on items related to the public hearing only. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment portion of the agenda are asked to adhere to the following guidelines. Step to the podium and address the Board President only.
So Sharon, I guess most of these questions are going to be for you. The program initiative highlights, that's not really in the, I'm going to ask all my questions so that my 3 minutes gets used properly. The program initiative highlights, those aren't really part of this increase in spending. Those are just things that we're doing anyway, correct? Don't answer that question because my time's running out. So,
I can pause it.
the transfer, it takes too long. The transfer to capital is what we're actually, is that $5 million. All that other slide is things that have already been approved. I want to just make that clear, right?
We don't actually isolate the budget that way and say that.
But the $5 million includes the transfer to capital stuff.
And everything else.
But that was already
We don't-
approved at
we
other
don't-
meetings, right?
The transfer to capital, no, the capital reserve was. That's different.
Well, your slide said transfer to capital on the top.
That's in
That's the
this
$5
year's
million.
budget. Yes,
That's the additional
correct.
spending.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to clarify on that. I also wanted to find out about bonds, but I'll ask that question in 1 second. Craig, I want to address this question to you. In 2013, at this public hearing, there was a public comment on the consent agenda items that were added on to the agenda. The same kind of hearing, this hearing. 2014, there was a public comment on consent agenda items. 2015, there were 2 public comments, one on the hearing itself, which is just the budget, and one on the consent agenda items. In 2016, you guys were then on the board, but there were still 2 public comments, one on the hearing and one on a consent agenda. In 2017, we had a public comment on the budget and a public comment on the code of conduct, but there was no consent agenda, so you didn't have a public comment on that. So my question to you tonight is, why can't we have a public comment on the consent agenda when it's been done for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years prior?
I have no idea.
Well, you're the president, you get to make up the agenda, so why are we only having 1 public comment? Because there are items on the consent agenda that we have questions on that I'd like to ask, but there's no second one.
I thought that was the way it's always been.
No, I looked through 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 at this very named meeting. So would you be willing to put on a second public comment for the consent agenda?
Tonight?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Why?
It's a public hearing.
Right, but I just explained that there was public hearings on all the other meetings in those other 5 years, and they had consent agenda items, and when they did that, you were allowed to speak. Anyone? Someone?
I have no issue with the public speaking, but that's just my opinion.
I actually was the one that asked, the attorney at that time, when I went here, to have 2 sessions because the community felt that they didn't have a voice. So I had changed it to 2, going back to 2000.
Well, 2012 was only half the year, so I couldn't check that one, but from 2013 on, that's what we think.
I think that people have the right to, as a community,
Great. So is that a yes? We can have a second public comment tonight?
Sure.
Great. Okay, so now I can ask you about the rest of my bond questions. How many, this is a lot of them, so you're gonna have to go with me here. How many bonds do we currently have out right now, separate bonds? How much money are those bonds for? And I know you're not gonna have these answers off the top of your head, so I'll put them on my Google document, but I just wanted to ask them. Have we paid off any of those bonds in, say, the last 3 to 5 years? And how much are we now adding this year, if any? I think we are, right? Aren't we doing a bond?
Potentially.
We're adding a bond vote? Okay. So those are my 4 questions on the bonds.
Okay,
Well, so you got them, or you?
I have you.
I'll re-put them on my document too, but I just wanted to put that out there. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the public hearing? Okay. We have to approve, we're moving on to F, minutes of Board of Education. I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the April 17th, 2018 budget adoption meeting.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 25th, 2018 special meeting.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to G, consent agenda. Need a motion and a second for items 2 through 8.
I'd like to pull item 2.
Okay, a motion first.
Take a motion.
Pulling 2.
I'm pulling item 2. Why would you pull 3?
They're
Huh?
both. Read it.
Are you pulling 2, 3?
Oh, wait. Why isn't that on your, oh, wait. Hold on, what is it?
Look up on the board, Mylan.
Mine was rearranged. Let me refresh.
Okay, so
I-
we need a
I'm
mo-
gonna pull, I'm actually pulling. Three.
2 and 3?
I don't even know what 2 is.
I'm not even sure what's in 2. Is it,
So we're just pulling 3?
2 and 3.
Wait, I need to see what number 2. All right, 2 I don't have an issue with.
You don't know what it is, then why are you pulling it?
Because I don't know what it is.
Now it's up.
Wouldn't that make sense? If I don't know what it is, why should I vote on something I don't know what I'm voting on?
I'm pulling 3.
And 2.
All righty.
You can pull 2 and 3, but if you open up number 2, Lee, it's irrelevant.
All righty, so,
Can you explain to us what 2 and 3 are exactly, what is 2 and 3? It says superintendent, and that's like the contract superintendent.
all right. I need a motion and a second then to approve
Not yet.
items 4 through 8.
Motion.
All in favor?
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
No.
No. And by the way, I think it's great that the kids are going to Dartmouth. That's very cool.
Yeah, we have to thank our business department for all the work that they did in figuring out how we can get this going. So we're really excited. We have 3 students going up and our aquatic robot. So we're excited to see how
I think the
kids do.
seniors are going on this one, right? Yeah, the 3 seniors. That's very cool. Please extend my congratulations to them.
Excuse me, Nick, you made the motion and Rob, you seconded? Yes.
Okay, so now we're moving on to,
We're not moving on to anything.
Comments, we have to vote. On 4 through 8.
oh, it's 4 through 8?
Yes. Motion.
Motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to H, items removed from consent
Wait,
agenda.
we haven't even finished G.
Just did.
No.
No, we didn't.
We're going on to H, which is now the 2 items that were removed.
Yeah. You
H.
removed 2 and
H
3.
H is the items removed.
Yeah.
Wait. It doesn't say it on here.
Well, because we
Don't
just
you have
removed
to
it.
You just removed it.
So you removed it, and then what are we doing with it?
Now we're gonna vote.
Now
Now
we're gonna talk about it.
Well, he's not saying
Vote
to.
on it.
We have this. That's how it works. Okay, I think I will make a motion second.
Yes.
Any discussion? Okay, so my
Motion?
Motion.
Second.
second,
Any discussion?
yes.
I have no idea.
I'm asking that this be tabled.
Sorry, Lee. On item, you just pulled items 2 and 3, Mylon.
Yes, I did, and I wanted to table them.
All right, well, that's where we are right now.
Okay.
So I'm asking them to be tabled because I heard nothing about this from our attorney. He put a contract together that totally don't understand. He put a contract together that no one has on Long Island. So I really think we should table it.
That's
And
not
you
true.
bring the the attorney in to discuss it with the board. Because there has been no discussion, all of a sudden this
Lee,
appears.
Lee, that's not true, and you're now spewing information that's incorrect. The board attorney was here twice to discuss it with us.
Right, and
He
then
put emails out to us with all the modifications, and it was taken care of. So you're now telling people that we didn't discuss something, and that's not true.
Yes.
wait a second.
That is totally not true.
He put it in a memo, and then I asked him to come to the board meeting. He said if the
He's
board...
been here twice, there's nothing else for him to
Excuse me.
discuss.
He's been here
Excuse me.
once.
You have an opinion. I know what I'm...
You're not telling facts.
I know what I'm telling, I'm
But you're
speaking
not-
in experience.
You're not telling
You're not
facts.
telling the
You know,
facts, Lee.
The fact is, there's something on this contract that I don't even know if the board understands,
I understand
okay?
it.
We all
Well, if
know
you
about it.
can accept that,
Mr. Gercio explained it to us fully.
when? When?
Well, the first time he was here, and then in his
No,
email
no.
with the
I'll have to
Yes, Lee, you
changes.
did.
Completely
Am I gonna be
discussed.
bullied by
Maybe
you
you don't
gentlemen?
understand it, but we did, I did personally.
Am I gonna be bullied by you gentlemen? You're gonna give me a chance to speak up.
Please, you're not
But
speaking
you're
the
not letting
truth.
me talk. You're talking over
You're not speaking
me.
the truth.
You are talking over me,
Go ahead.
okay? Something was written in this contract that is no one's contract on Long Island. Okay, that's number one. Did any of you disagree with me?
Yes, that's not true. Mr.
Okay.
Gercio said, not only are there superintendents who have certain stipulations, but there also is a previous one in Connecticut that had it. So you're telling, again, things that aren't true.
Not that, no, not that
That's not-
particular
that's-
And
stipulation,
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Gercio's a liar.
I
That's
am
what you're saying?
asking, no, I'm asking Mr. Gercio, as I asked the attorney, is I want an explanation of how that particular contract got written. Because we didn't say to him, okay, in a consensus. How did we do that?
Lee, what's your question about, you pulled 2 and 3, so what's your question?
Well, I'm asking you to table it until she
Okay.
comes back with an answer.
Yes.
Yes, I need an answer from him.
Take a vote?
So you need a motion to table,
Yes.
You would need a motion and a second to table.
so you call for a motion. Anyone second that?
I second the table.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
All right, so now I'm gonna tell you the truth. We had one discussion among the board. We had one discussion with the attorney. Everything else was via email. I had a question regarding a provision that was in the contract that was written. I asked the attorney, the language as it speaks now, have you written this language for anybody else? He said no. So I just want to make a correction on that. He has not written this language for anybody else.
I think that's only on one particular item.
And that one particular item, I have an issue with. I don't like the wording of it, I don't like the provision. I asked him, and it was CC, the whole board saw it, and
Yep.
he plainly said, no other superintendent has that provision. I'm not comfortable with that, so I'm saying no.
Marlon, I think if I recall correctly, I emailed several questions that clarified that stipulation through Mr. Garcia.
Yes.
And we all agreed that the responsibility of that clause lies in the board's
You
hands.
can't say we all agree, I did not agree.
Oh, all right, you didn't agree.
You say the majority agree, but not we, not
Okay.
all we.
But we did agree that the responsibility of that clause lies in the board's hands. We all did agree that.
And I also,
And you said you weren't comfortable with that because prior boards have dropped the ball. Your
Correct.
words, not mine.
correct,
And I said, I'm not hanging my hat on something that reflects that we're concerned the board is gonna drop the ball. Correct?
yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So I just wanna make it very clear that I understood the language of what Mr. Garcia wrote. I asked some very clarifying questions of which he confirmed, which
That's
further clarified anything that I had in question and confirmed that the responsibility of that clause lies in the board's hands, and if there was a concern with the superintendent's performance, that could be nullified immediately.
Correct.
And
I just wanted to make that
and if you also read through the email threads, I asked, has that wording ever been included in any of his contracts he's written across Long Island with his clients? He also said no. So therefore, I said, I'm really not comfortable having that wording in the contract, especially since no other district has it, and I can't rely on future boards to take on the responsibility of what we do today. So I have to vote no on that.
I think it's very important, Mr. Rabel, what you said, after you did clarify and go through your process of trying to get, proper clarification, Mr. Garcia affirmatively agreed with all of your clarification.
What does that have to do with the idea that he also agreed with what I said too, so what's the difference? Because there will be no ownership on who is going, the wording,
He didn't, though. He agreed that it falls on the board's responsibility.
okay, and
He
if nobody reminds
He
the board.
confirmed that.
He
And if-
confirmed that there's no
Well, it's
risk
the
to the
board's job to
district
read
if the
things.
board does its job.
And,
We
okay,
experienced that tonight where people didn't read things. It's the board's job to read things before they come to a meeting.
listen, I read everything, I think I come very prepared to every meeting, I don't think anybody on this board can dispute that.
I
And
can,
again,
you just didn't know what number 2 was on the contract.
because I didn't have my iPad wasn't working.
But then you can't say that you
And
know
then once
everything.
I looked at it, I was well aware of it, and I said to Lee, it's a non-issue. My issue was with number
Just-
3.
Just so we're clear, there's a little stipulation that they're referring to. Every other item was agreed to by the whole board.
That's not true, Lee did not agree to one of the items.
Okay, well, that's why I looked at Lee, I wasn't sure. Okay, so there's one other item, but the 4 other people were okay with it. So the stipulation is, of course, I can't discuss it, but it's like what Mr. Grable just expressed. So it's not a big deal as long as the board does their job. So the contract that we're accepting is very fair, it's very normal.
It's not normal when
It
the
is
attorney said,
normal.
or maybe all the other
It's
clauses in
one little
there.
aspect of it.
Very
Yeah,
normal.
but then again, why would I want it, I'm just not agreeing to it.
It's just-
I don't think,
don't
I don't
forget-
think the ownership should be on the future boards.
It's very normal for somebody who works so
Yes.
hard.
Let's not make this, they already said yes, let's move on.
All right,
Motion on the table already, just
so
2 and 3, motion, second.
second, so we said.
Now you have.
No, I will not accept
I'm
that.
saying no.
You're a no, Mr. Ferrioli? Yes. Mr. Grable?
Yes.
Mr. Memorando? Yes. I guess, that's it, we're done, so we're gonna have the public comment. Everything that I said before, please. Thank you.
Sure. So, 2 weeks ago, not the April 25th meeting, because no one really knew about that one, but the meeting before that, I happened to come here a little bit early. Ms. Damarando, you were kind of yelling, so I was able to hear what you were saying out in the vestibule. It was quite interesting, because you said the word evergreen. I happened to see on the agenda.
No.
No, you said the
Ms.
word evergreen.
Panico,
I heard the word
I-
evergreen, and I got called up
No,
by.
I did not say that
Let me
word.
finish my 3 minutes,
But-
please. I have
but
3
again,
minutes. I have 3 minutes, Ms.
I don't like when people
Damarando.
can say
I
whatever
have
they
three-
want,
can you
and
please
it's
stop my
not
time?
factual.
Okay.
That's wrong. You can't do that.
Ms.
No,
Damarando,
don't do that.
don't tell me what I
I
heard
just told you.
standing out in the hallway.
I didn't say
I'm in
that.
the hallway, I got a
I
call from
wasn't, I know what I was
the next day,
yelling about. I
yelling
know
at
exactly
me,
what I was yelling about.
yelling at me saying, why are you telling people that I'm telling you that stuff's in the contract? I said, you didn't tell me. I heard Mr. Amarando say that word.
So because
So you
one
said
of
that
the-
word
one of these
evergreen, so
ladies
this is
told
what I
you a
did.
conversation
Don't turn this back on
from
me.
somewhere before.
Don't talk over me, this is my public comment.
You
I
can-
have 3 minutes.
Was it?
I know, I want my 3 minutes.
Was it?
You can talk after me, I want my 3 minutes.
No, I'll talk when I want to talk.
Oh, okay.
That's how it works.
Go ahead, you talk.
That's how it
You
works.
talk. You tell me what I heard.
Ms. Panico,
Go ahead.
it's a shame.
That what, they
You
just
will
lied?
come up- Now,
That's a
now
shame.
I'm lying?
That's a shame, yeah. You're telling someone what they heard. How did I know that? How did I
I'm
know
not
that
telling
word
you
was?
what you
I
heard.
Googled it that
Excuse
night.
me, I'm telling
And
you
I
what I
was at
said.
the diner with 2 people in this room.
I'm telling you
and
what I,
was
yeah,
spoken
exactly,
her,
I know where
and
you
I knew
got
exactly
information.
where the
You didn't
information
hear
was.
anything.
I heard you. I heard you yell. Don't yell at the women then, and maybe I wouldn't overhear
Don't
you.
yell at the women, you don't.
I heard you in the
How do
vestibule.
you know
I was
what
standing
goes
there
on?
with Dean and Monica. They
I
heard
can't
you
defend
yelling.
myself?
They heard you yelling in
I
the
can't
vestibule.
defend myself.
Did you ask Dean and
Myron,
Monica?
do you want to tell Eileen what I was yelling about?
I can't talk about it exactly.
Oh,
What I did.
so but
first
see,
of all-
that's my point, everyone. It was executive session. And someone is telling Ms. Panico information about executive
You
session.
did.
Well,
She did not
you
hear
did.
it out in the hallway.
I heard your
because that's
voice.
not what the topic was.
I heard your
The
voice.
topic was about
I heard your
what you
voice.
said on Facebook about
I heard
we
your
were
voice.
voting on a
I
contract.
heard your voice.
Which
You were-
was a
you were
lie.
working on a contract.
So
It was
that's
on
what
the
I was
agenda.
yelling about.
Stupid
But
comment
Ms.
on my
Panico will
comment.
get up here and lie to everyone.
I don't lie about
Gee.
anything. I have no reason to lie.
But you
None
are.
whatsoever.
It's a fact.
I have no
Myron,
reason to lie. Myron did
Everyone in
not
this
tell me
room
that.
knows what I was yelling about.
Myron did not tell me
We
that.
all know what I
So
was
nice
yelling
try.
about.
I have no reason to lie,
I was
Mr.
yelling about
Alvarado.
what you put on Facebook that we were
What
approving
did
a
I put on
contract 2
Facebook?
Oh
weeks
my
ago.
God, can we
That's right.
please
I know.
stop
You
yelling?
It's a shame,
Everybody.
but this
You
is
put
something
on
that's going to the
Facebook-
Board of
You
Education.
put on
Okay.
Facebook about a contract that's 2 years before it's due. 2 years before it's due. It looks shady.
All right.
It looks very shady. And that's what I said on
Thank you, Ms.
Facebook, and I
Panico.
stand by that.
Yeah.
I have 3 minutes.
You can lie all
I'd
you
like to
want.
finish my
You can lie all
conversation.
you want.
You're lying, but that's okay. You
I'm
can
not.
say you're lying all you want, but
Liz,
I know what I
We're not
heard.
going to say the truth right now.
I didn't even know the argument was in here.
But
She said she
Mylan?
never heard you.
What
Yes?
happened was, the next day, you sent the board a nasty gram saying that I spilled information. And I'm like, what the hell is...
No, that's not what happened.
The next day, you sent the board an email, a very nasty email in regard to me.
I sent you.
Saying that, no, you sent the whole board. The whole board got that email.
I know, but it was a reference to you.
It was reference to me. And you're saying that I had leaked out information. And I'm like,
I
I don't
did
know
not
what.
hear that
I
information
didn't
from
say you
Mylan.
leaked that information.
Then why did you refer to Linda's contract, not even 24 hours later?
Okay.
But then I'll move on from that.
No, I'm not moving on.
Oh, okay, good.
Because this is,
Because I'm not done with the conversation
in
yet.
the last 3 years, this has happened over and over by certain people.
Yourself. You did this one. Take responsibility, Mr. Amarando.
Ms.
I know
Panico,
you're not running
I'm
for the board
speaking.
again, but you should
Please.
really take responsibility
speaking, thank
for
you.
screaming at women
So-
and then screaming that word out, and I
So-
happen to hear it. It's the first time I came to the board meeting
But-
early.
Ms. Panico, if you're not going to stop, you're going to have to leave.
Well, you're not
I'm
even...
speaking right
It's
now.
fine, 3 minutes.
No, it's not. I'm
Oh,
speaking.
okay. All right, we'll go back to that.
That day before that meeting, that was 2 weeks ago, Ms. Panico put on Facebook, outrageous, the board accepted the superintendent's contract. What an outrage. Where's the transparency? Go to the board meeting and voice your opinion. That was false.
Those weren't my exact words.
Mylan,
You're-
on the
Let's listen.
thread-
I'm not speaking, he's speaking.
Mylan on the thread said, Don't include me, I'm not involved in that.
I think you mixed the thread, because.
Yeah,
I-
you
I
misquoted.
hopefully still
You should
have it,
bring
I
it
can
up.
bring it up.
You
Bring
bring
it
it
up.
up,
So-
because you misquoted
So,
me.
that, not only was I upset with Mylan that she would say something, but she knew it was a lie, that wasn't the truth. We didn't accept any contract of the superintendent. So, apparently, I don't know where she got her information, it was
It
wrong.
was on the agenda.
I was mad at Mylan for not, if she's gonna comment, then at
It
least
was
tell her
on the
it's wrong,
agenda.
that's not true. So, when I was yelling, I was upset with Miss Orglis, and that's, whatever evergreen clause, that didn't even come up in the conversation.
Sure
So
did.
it's
How did I know that
impossible,
word?
impossible
How did I know
for-
that word?
Excuse me, can you
How did I know
stop?
that word? No, you're defaming my character.
I'm defending
I'm
your
the word.
character,
If
I'm
that-
trying to.
That
No, see, that's
comment
what-
on Facebook
That's
was
what
already
bullies
on
always
your
do.
agenda.
You
It was
attack,
on
I'm
your agenda.
defending myself,
No, you're
but now
not. You're
I'm
attacking
attacking.
me about
I'm
something
attacking
I
you.
wrote on Facebook.
No, I'm defending.
You said I wrote something on Facebook
Please, people
that
on
had
video,
something to do with
I'm
the
trying
agenda.
to state the facts and the truth.
Your facts and your truth are.
No, anyone in this
it's not
room
the real
will agree
facts
to
and
it.
truth.
I never mentioned
Still a
anything.
majority, of course they're gonna agree to it. Go ahead. Go pull up the Facebook post. It was on the agenda. Look at the agenda, Craig. Just because you want to construe it to make it seem that it has to be what you want it to be, it's not the truth.
Isn't that weird how bad people do that?
You do that well, Craig. You
isn't
do
that
that
a
all the
shame?
time. It's really
Yeah.
amazing. I really give you a lot of credit for that.
So-
I do.
Everyone, you can see transparency right here in the making. That she didn't hear anything about an evergreen clause because it wasn't brought
yes,
up.
I did.
I was talking and I was yelling at Miss Orglis because how she didn't defend the Board of Education that she's part of. She knows it, that's the fact. So, that's the fact.
First of all.
Then, and the next day, I did write an email because I'm flabbergasted that she would go on Facebook and do that instead of sticking up for the truth. So that's it. That's the facts, that's the truth. I only tell the truth. Everyone up here would admit to exactly that. So,
I
That's a
remember
shame.
making a comment about the hiring of this,
well, just stick to what we're discussing right now.
yeah, so that's the one I commented on, so I don't know what you're
No,
referring
when
to.
she said, remember, it was on the Facebook post, she said, everyone come to the meeting tonight. The board
That's not what I said.
already
It says on the
accepted the
agenda.
superintendent contract.
I said the superintendent's contract is
So
on the
I
agenda.
read it, I was like, oh, that's not true,
Superintendent's
why would she
contract is
write
on the
that?
agenda.
And Miley,
Look it up on
instead
my
of coming
Facebook.
to
It's
our,
under
like
transparency
your
and connect
defense,
lab.
you said, don't
still
include
there.
me on that, like you acted like it was true. So that's why I was upset.
And by the way, the next day I did speak to Mrs. Adams, Dr. Adams, excuse me,
So
and we spoke about the
I hope
clause
there's
in the contract
sane
too. So
individual
it was
people out
confirmed.
there, normal people, nice people that just believe the truth, please. It's a shame that people are allowed to say whatever they
Right,
want.
go read it on
and try to
Facebook
get it-
and find out the
try to
actual
get it-
truth, not Craig's
Try to
version.
get away with it,
You're a little
okay? It's
delusional.
a shame. It's a shame,
Yes,
all right?
yes.
I'm gonna vote
It's a
to
shame.
adjourn this meeting. I have make a motion.
Can I say something first, because I think there's something that matters.
Shame.
Now, of course he's gonna cut me off because what is
No,
on
it's not-
Facebook
why
is
not-
on
why not-
Facebook. It's on Facebook, there's no lying, Craig.
Can I-
My stuff is on Facebook, it's out there. I don't have to lie about it, it's in print.
Can I add something that's, I think,
Sure,
relevant?
Mr. Ferrioli.
Um,
I still didn't get my 2 minutes and 41 seconds, it's now down to 2 minutes and 17 seconds. That's-
Obviously, in negotiations, you meet with different groups, whether you meet with the superintendent, you meet with the lawyers, things like that. Upon the first request from the superintendent, some of the board members had concerns. So, most of the board members were okay with most of the contract. We had a few questions. But there were 2 board members who had major concerns. So we decided to bring the lawyer in on that day.
Yeah,
And Mr. Enranda was not available, so I put the superintendent's contract on the agenda in full no, let me speak,
it was
please.
on the agenda, you're right. I'm agreeing with you, Nick, go ahead. It was on the agenda, correct.
I put it on the agenda in full transparency in case it was voted on that night. Upon meeting with the lawyers, everybody felt that we should move in a different direction and fix some of the things that needed to be fixed. So it was taken off and tabled that night. But in the purpose of full transparency, in case it was voted on that night, I suggested that it be on the agenda. So that it wasn't something that got added after we met with the president, with the lawyer, and then it looked like we were trying to hide something because there was never
I didn't say
anything to.
that. You said that. I didn't say that.
No, he did not say that. And no one said, I just want people to understand the timeline, because it seems like people think that there's something to be hidden here. There was never anything to be hidden here. That's why, as soon as it was discussed, it was put on as a possibility that it might
Thank
get
you for
voted
proving
on.
my point. I said that on my Facebook post. I said it's
I
on
don't
the
know what
agenda
your
tonight.
Facebook post said, and
You
I
can go
don't,
look,
that
it's
to me
still
doesn't
there.
matter.
I said it
That
is on.
doesn't matter. I just think it's
Let me
important
know when I
that,
can talk.
well, I was talking and I haven't stopped talking, so, you know, but, anyway, the point is
What,
that,
3 minutes?
well, because I think that we talk about transparency, and I think it is important, and in the full point of trying to be transparent, that was the reason that it was on the agenda. So I don't know what was said on Facebook, I don't care what was said on Facebook at this point, I just want to make it clear that no one was trying to hide anything, and no one is still trying to hide anything.
I didn't say that. Go look at my post.
I didn't say you did, Eileen.
Okay, he did.
I didn't say he did either.
Okay.
I'm just trying to clarify the steps that happened
I
so
don't care
everybody's
who put
aware.
it on the agenda,
That's all.
all I know is that it was on the agenda. So, you know, it doesn't say stupid on my forehead, just like when you hire someone, or you put someone, confidential employee A, gets suspended, and then the next week, that position is open up, you kind of figure out who it is. People aren't stupid, so when you're standing out in the hallway and you know that you put that on the agenda, it was on the agenda, and I hear him yelling, it could have been you, I assumed that it was his voice, but all I heard was that term. So I have a phone that has Google on it, it's a really great tool, I don't know if anybody knows about that, and I did superintendent's contract evergreen, and I looked it up. And it's not a very common thing here in New York State, only about a handful of people have it. I didn't like it. The next day, first I got a phone call from Mylin, yelling at me saying, why are you telling people that I'm telling you things about confidential stuff? And I said I didn't, and I told her exactly how I heard it. Then I called up Linda, we discussed it, we discussed the clause. It's her contract, she's certainly allowed to discuss it with me. I'm not gonna go into that now, but we discussed it, and I knew all about it. So why are you saying, Mr. Amarando, that I'm lying about something when I just explained the whole thing to you, and he just said it was on the agenda?
Are you asking me a question?
I am asking you, why would you accuse me of lying when he just said that it was on the agenda?
No, I'm accusing you of a liar that I never said anything about an
Oh, so I just heard it out of thin air. Listen, my eyes are really bad.
I know where you heard it.
I did not hear it from her.
I know where you
I don't
heard
care
it.
what you think.
Okay,
I didn't hear it from
it never came out
her.
of my
My
mouth.
eyes are bad, but my ears are really good. You can ask my daughter who's here tonight. I have really good hearing.
We're going around.
I'm done. I'm finished with my comment, thank you very much. I don't agree with the
You heard what
clause.
I said.
I think it's a terrible clause, and I think that you should have waited
What is
and
it?
not done it now. It's an automatic.
Do we have motion to adjourn?
That's part of it.
Oh, sorry, come on.
Someone, come on, a child, a student has a nice thing. Wow. A child, a student has a nice thing to say. Thank you.
So I just want to say, on behalf of the student government, I would like to thank the Board of Education, as well as the Central Office Administration and our district attorneys. With your help, our first ever Spring Fest would never have been, without your help, our first ever Spring Fest would never have been possible. This event was a great success, with a large showing, and received accolades from many members of the community. The student government is extremely thankful to have been allowed to host an event we have felt so passionate about, that we feel has added to the sense of pride that we feel here as T-Boards. Here's the first of many, and again, thank you. And then quickly, off of that, they kind of Civic like to thank the student government for Spring Fest. Civic is actively working on Really for Life, and we are assisting Ms. Coogan while she moderates the Board of Education candidate nights. Saw you there a couple days ago. Civic is also in the final stages of next year's Awareness Weekend preparations. That as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nico.
The event was great, and you guys did a great job at the Civic, so I appreciate that. I appreciate the job that Ms. Goodwin did. I know that's a tough thing to moderate and get through all of that, so I'm sure all the other candidates would say the same thing, that it was a tremendous job done, so good job.
And I'm just gonna piggyback on that because Proof was fabulously acted. Our 4 actors did an amazing job. It was moving and powerful, and so the weekend was just completely successful from both groups, so thank you.
And I have a couple of questions. But Deirdre, you go first, it's your turn.
I just had a question again regarding the parking at the high school. Do you happen to know if there's rules about the senior parking and the junior parking has changed, or remain the same from last year or anything
I think
about it?
it's gonna remain the same. They all feel it's a privilege that the seniors only are allowed to drive to the high school.
Okay, so what I want to say is that I appreciate, that's the rule, that's the rule. We struggled with it last year, my daughter had to quit her job because, we're not supposed to say a name, but her big shot at the high school said no more, even though it's a job, and she had to quit the job. But now, this past week, between last week and early this week, my daughter's car was not working, and I drove her on a few days, her and my son, on a few of the mornings. And as I'm driving out, I saw, just in my drive-through, drop off and go, 4 juniors parking in the lot. I know, because my son's a junior, so I know these faces. And then the kids came home from school, and I said, what, this morning when I left, there would be blah, 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 and parking, and they said, yeah, they actually got called down today. So I said, oh, I guess that's going to be taken care of. I drop off the next day, the kids are parked there again. So she had to quit her job, and the one time we had a disaster at the house in the morning, I called and said,
Mr.
Big
Principal.
shot of the, I'm not supposed to say the position.
You could say Mr.
He called the high school, that's okay.
Called the high school and said, I know she's not allowed to. We had a thing go on in the morning, which I'm not gonna get into. I had no choice but to go, I would go, whatever, she had to go drive us out to school. And I emailed him, actually, I didn't even call. And he emailed me back a very sharp, regardless of what it was, you know the rule, and if I see her again, she will lose her privileges for next year. Okay, I could have just told her, sneak in the lot, park somewhere, I didn't. I said, you go in, I'm gonna call him and let him know, whatever. I got the sharp email back, I don't think I ever spoke to him about it again, but we abided by the rule. She never parked there again. And she lost the job. Now this year, we have all these juniors parking, it's brought to their attention, they're called down, and they're still parking. It was pointed out that one, or maybe 2 of them, had boyfriends that are seniors. They're using their pass because the senior goes to BOSI, so here, you use my pass. Another one of them, I believe, copied the pass. They know that this stuff is going on because it went on last year. Only my kid had to get ridiculed and threatened and quit her job, but now it still goes on. My point is, he cannot pick and choose who has to abide by the rules.
How do you know they're picking and choosing?
Because I saw them parking with my eyes, and I saw them parking the next day.
Did you report it?
They were reported, they were called down. In fact,
Is that a
5
fact?
of
I don't know.
Yes,
Is
5
this
of
fact?
them were called down. I only saw 4 of them with my own eyes, but 5 of them were called down. I don't know what their disciplinary thing, what they received, but to me, when I go to drop off the next morning and I still see 3 or 4 of the same group parking there with their phony passes, I'm not happy about it. I didn't make so much of a fuss last year. I asked, I pushed, but I didn't. Now I'm like, this is not right. You don't cherry pick who the rules are for and
Sure,
who they're
no, of
not.
course
That's not fair to the children. It's not a good message to them. He needs to be spoken to and get his stuff together.
Deirdre, can you report it? Because I'm assuming that you don't have real knowledge of that that's actually why they were called down. I don't have any knowledge of that.
Yeah.
So if you report it, then there's a paper trail and it can be followed up on. We can make sure that those students that you saw are checked on. Because we're all, I don't want to say that you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. You saw them, but and you're making what seems like realistic judgments that that's why they were called down. But we don't know that for sure. It could have just been a coincidence. And having seen them the next day, it's very possible that maybe that wasn't why they were called down. So I think the best thing to do is to report it and then follow up on it. If you don't get a response, then follow up with Dr. Adams so that those children can be, to a proper person and they can be looked at and why. And if it's someone who's sharing their past, then that person's privileges should be revoked.
I agree.
Put your microphone on, Lee. Thank you.
I know when my son went here, he's 33 now, but when he went through here and he had a job as a junior, he was allowed to park his car because he had a job.
That's right.
I don't know. I don't know when it changed, but right now, I have to say, there are fewer kids, and they're going to be fewer each year. But, kids have to work. My son had to work. I made him go to work. And did you think I was gonna pick him up, take him to work? That wasn't gonna happen. But, I mean, I didn't, there was no question about it. If you work, you get a letter from the job.
We provided that.
I was on the board and I still provided all that stuff. And he was not given a courtesy because he was my son. It was the norm. Maybe, it should
Linda,
be
you gotta put
like-
your microphone on.
You know, it was never enforced
Bring that to
before,
the
so I
policy
guess he
committee.
chose to enforce it,
He
then
chose to
enforce
enforce
it.
it because it was a dangerous situation his first year
That
here.
1 year, I agree.
And
That was a
the
crazy
truth is
year.
that the policy says seniors only, because there are not enough spots. If every senior were to have a car, there's still not enough spots, you'd have to go to a lottery. So if every senior walked in and said, I have keys to a car, we would have to go to a lottery because it would be unsafe.
Understood.
So right now, the policy says seniors only for that very reason, because there are not enough spots.
But at this
I
point,
understand,
we're
but
gonna
we've
lose
never,
100
ever had
we're gonna
every
lose
senior
150
have a
kids in
spot,
3
be a
years.
spot. We've never, ever in all years had anybody, well, every senior have a spot, and then there was not a spot left. That was the first year, and I agree with you, it was crazy. I didn't see that going on, but I had heard a lot about it. So I agree, but do we make a blanket statement for all the years to ever come, take away a nice little thing the kids had, instead of figuring out a way to make it work? Whether it be a lottery or, you know, whatever, spots went out, they went out. I don't know, it just seemed like a little thing that he didn't really need
Change
to
the policy.
upset the apple cart over.
New board.
Last year was
Fine,
bad,
I'm
if
gonna
I ever see it
disagree.
again, we're not doing
I'm
it.
gonna
But
disagree.
it
He
didn't.
he actually began to enforce the policy because he saw unsafe conditions. So you can say there weren't unsafe conditions if we let all our juniors, whether they have jobs or not, park. We're gonna get back in that unsafe condition. So right now, the policy states seniors only. You know, the policy committee actually looked at it. Mr. Costa came in and presented the amount of spaces that we have, the amount of kids who actually have permits out, the fact that they don't park every single day. He does not want an unsafe situation with young drivers. So, you know,
And a rule is a rule, I get it, I wasn't happy
and
about it.
I understand that that this rule
Yeah.
is not being enforced right now,
Right.
and we will make sure that it's enforced.
And with all of his numbers and all that, I'm sure he has never once posted the pictures that I have of the parking lot that is
Empty.
70%
Linda, you gotta turn your microphone on.
every single day, but nobody can park in. So they're parking in the neighborhoods, they're getting tickets, the residents are angry. There's just, when there's no reason for that sort of rule, then there's just no reason. So, that's
So
what I
Linda, is
think.
that true that there's a good portion of the parking lot that's vacant during the day? You just said it's full, so now you.
No, I did not say it's full.
Say that.
I said that if every senior applied for a permit, there would not be enough spots to give every senior a spot. However, the amount of permits that are out are not used on a daily basis. They're used, maybe they're used every day, maybe they're not used every day. Maybe the child only uses the car one day a week when their mother doesn't have to work that morning. So he came to the policy committee last year at the bequest of the board because of what Mrs. Lindsay talked about last year. He gave us the amount of kids who had applied for permits, the amount of spots that we had, and he was trying to alleviate unsafe conditions. So it was reviewed, and the policy committee said, no, leave it to be a senior privilege, because quite frankly, across Long Island, that is in place in most districts. So it was reviewed last year. And there are definitely spots empty. I go to the high school more than I'm at any other building, and there are definitely spots empty. I totally agree with that.
So what was the unsafe conditions?
We had juniors and seniors parking all over the place. They were parking on the grass, they were parking outside of the lines, they were parking all over the place because like a concert night or an art show night, every day at 7 o'clock in the morning with
One year
brand new
was bad.
drivers.
The 1
So
year.
it's
But
unsafe.
enrollment is so much lower than that now, it really.
It's really not. There's still 500 kids per class, and there are not 1,000 extra spots. So we've had this conversation
How many
multiple
spots do we
times.
have?
We've
I'd
never
have
had
to
it where
go
every
back and answer
senior.
that again. But there's not 1,000, there's not 1,000
No, but is
spots.
there enough for every senior? Is there
No,
500?
there's not.
But we've never had every, in all the years.
No,
since
we never- I know,
attended
I know.
high school,
I just
we
wanted to
never
know the
had a full
number.
lot Like we did that year. It was crazy, it was crazy.
It was unsafe.
But, okay.
Thank
So, while we're complaining, since it's a complaining kind of night, can I complain about one other thing? I know my time is up, I'll go.
Well, her time wasn't really
But
up.
I'm thinking, well, I shouldn't really get into it, but about the bathrooms, can you tell me, I had mentioned that so many of the bathrooms at the high school are never open, and I get why, again, the smoking and whatever goes on in them. but it still remains to be a problem. Is there anything we can figure out about it when now they have to go like a certain period of the day? I think, let's say the art room bathroom is open. But if they're in the math wing, you know, and so they either get to class late, or they go in and ask, you know, can I run to the bathroom? The teacher says yes, but then by the time you get to the other wing and come back, now you've lost 10 minutes of class, 12 minutes,
If not more.
and you get marked late.
Sure.
And it really, I don't know what the answer is except for that.
For next year's budget.
I thought
Okay, we have
that,
monitors hired for next year till.
I know
That
that
would be
doesn't start
great.
May and June, but
it doesn't, but
we
that.
put them in the budget for next year.
That would be great. All right, thank you.
I have a
Thank you.
couple
Thank
of
you,
things
Deirdre.
I'd like to ask. Can I start with Wonder? Monica? I bumped into Mrs. Santo, who never saw the movie. And she had a suggestion, and I thought it was weak, because she never saw the movie. So I don't think she truly understands the full impact of that movie, and that, I don't know what she said they were going to do with it. It was like, it just didn't seem like it was powerful enough.
We have been looking into different ways we could present the material to the students. We have asked the attorneys for some guidance on how we could show the movie to large groups of students at one time. I do need a little bit more information before I report out on it because of that.
Okay.
But we are continuing to look into the best way that we can do this.
Right now, it is a copyright issue of show to a large group. So that's what we're trying to figure out, how we can maneuver that. Yeah.
Does anybody know?
Also, I learned
Does anybody know what Ms. Santo's suggestion was? Because you just slandered a good woman who works really hard in this district by not
me to
telling.
slander her.
Well,
I
you
said
did.
she did not see the movie, so she
But-
doesn't.
And you said her
That's not
suggestion was weak, but you didn't tell everybody what her suggestion was. That's really not appropriate.
Wow.
So does anybody know what her suggestion was?
She told me she did not see the
I'd like to
movie.
know.
So I prefaced it. She did not see the movie.
Oh.
So she suggested something based on not seeing the movie, and I didn't see, I felt as though the movie is much more powerful than what she suggested. How is that?
But do you know what she suggested? Because I'd like to hear.
It was some sort of option that kids could see it or not, whatever.
Monica, are you aware of what she suggested, what Ms. Santo suggested?
I'm not quite sure which idea Ms. Kennedy is referring to right now. There were a few ideas that were discussed. I would feel more comfortable talking about them once we have the rest of the guidance from the attorneys. I haven't had the opportunity to preview it.
Okay. Well, that's number
We will
one.
get more information.
Most definitely.
And then number two
Thank you.
is I was at Meet the Candidates Night, and a gentleman came up to me and he said, so we have a lot of money in this district. This is not the first time, but I was embarrassed by the question because it's not the first time I heard it, but he was more specific than others. He said, what do you do with those brand new desks out in the hallway you're getting rid of at OBM? I said, what are you talking about? Even though I did hear something about it previously. So basically, they bought, let's just go back a little bit. 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I walked into Slocum. Desks were rusted, bad shape. I said, what's going on here? So they did change them. They brought them up to date. But what they did at OBM, from what I was told, is they replaced, including the secretary's desk, which were perfect. Every desk and suite, the line suite, was totally changed, and all the new furniture was replaced by newer furniture. And I was embarrassed because, you know, I mean, how many, I know we have extra money in this district right now, but, you know, I'd rather see it in 3D printers, not, you know, 3D printers versus desks, newer desks to replace new desks. And so, you know, when I hear it, when I heard it from around 3 or 5 people, what are we, rich? We're wasting money. I'm a taxpayer. I kind of felt resentful also, because I'm a taxpayer. And I'm a senior. And I pay a lot of money. So to see it being wasted, I want to see it being wasted on kids. I want to see more robotics. I want to see more Legos. I want to see more 3D printers in the district. I don't want to see new desks over new desks. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm embarrassed by it. And and people also questioned about the doors. They said, aren't there a lot of new doors? I got this at a derby night. I went to a derby party, this is what I got. But we have a lot of new doors in this district. Why are we spending more money on newer doors? I said, because it's a safety thing, feature. Well, those doors are safe, These are retired teachers that are coming at me. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that just because we have a lot of money, we're just spending it, and we're spending it frivolously. I didn't get questions about the air conditioner too. I'm getting bombarded by people in the community. No one ever talks to me about anything. But this year I got bombarded between the three issues. So I'm embarrassed by it. So I'm going to embarrass you guys a little bit. I want to see that money spent on kids. I think this whole board would like to see the money being spent on kids and giving them the best they can get. Bringing in programs, bringing in foreign language programs. That's how you spend the money that we have that's extra. Not anything that's frivolous. End of story.
Miss, do you want to say something?
Sorry. Okay, 3 different questions. Number one, it would be more towards Monica. For special education in that department, as far as like the teachers, do they all get specific training for the teachers that deal with children with autism? Do they go to specialized training for dealing and understanding autism and working with children that are autistic?
Teachers have the opportunity to attend a multitude of staff development. They also can request that staff development is brought to the district. In addition to that, we are working with 2 outside consultants in this specific area. Both consultants come to the district, can work directly with parents, and attend CSE meetings as well as consult in the classrooms.
Right. That's my question more, was the requirement of it. Is that something that will be instilled in the future? Because I know that teachers, I know that teachers can go for that special education training to say that they are trained to work with special education children. But dealing with children that are on the spectrum is entirely different, as you know.
I agree.
So that's my question, is it something that will be instilled, it's actually a requirement? Because that's more the question, and what we would like to see geared towards is that in order to work with children on the spectrum, you should be well versed in that subject and how to work with children and how to communicate with children that are on the spectrum and understand behaviors and things like that. So that's more what the question was.
We are committed to continue the relationship with the current consultants we have working in this area.
Okay.
There's no thought of changing the current model, or I should say reducing the current model.
Okay.
If the need should arise that would require additional time, we would request that additional time.
Okay. So, but those teachers that work with the children in the special education department, is specifically like the CAPS program and programs in the high school for children that are on the spectrum, those teachers have gone through that training?
They've all had, I'm not going to speak to the level of training that each of the teachers have had without having their information in front of me.
Right.
I do believe they have access to a multitude of consultants, and we are in the classes on a regular basis, so if not myself, if someone else feels that there's a specific need that's not being addressed, we're responsive in that way, and we do have people on staff who are experts in the field who can offer support.
Right, okay. And that brings me to the other question. I don't know if that's more a question for Dawn or you guys. Does the security staff go through training and understanding children that are on the spectrum and their behaviors?
He's shaking his head yes.
Yes? I like to hear. Then my other question is football practice. Football practice over the summer starts, and you have children that are getting out at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. My son is one of them. I have 2 littles, so you know what, I wake the babies up and go in the car because I don't want him riding his bike home. What I find absurd is that now I'm stuffing and locking bikes at my house, at the school, because I'm petrified of the other friends of his that are riding their bikes home down Ocean Avenue and whatever that main road is, at 10:30 at night, on a summer night, when people are out drinking, people are out partying, people are out doing that.
Are you talking about summer
Football practice, it never ends when it's supposed to.
In
I have sat in that parking lot with 2 screaming children. I'm pretty sure they've heard them on the football field. And that practice has gone till 10:45 at night. And I will say at least 5 or 6 kids are now, I'm the crazy mom, following them in the Tahoe, driving down Ocean, making sure they get to their houses safe, and they're on bikes.
Is that a camp or is that?
And a lot of their parents can't, and I just can't. The high school football practice goes extremely late. I'm talking, and I'm talking custodians shut down the field lights, and those kids are still on the field practicing. I get it. I'm a football mom, I'm right there, like, kick some butt. I understand the need for practice, but I also understand the need for, especially when it increases to now school nights and people that are working and need to get up at 5 in the morning with kids, and the safety of the students that are now, don't have cars yet, the juniors, might not have licenses yet, and they're riding their bikes home in pitch black during the summer when people are out drinking.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
So it's something to be addressed,
we
just,
We will look into that. That's
okay?
it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have one quick question. Last year, there was an issue as far as heat with AP testing and regents in the gyms, and a lot of the kids were, it was an uncomfortable situation to be taking those kind of exams in. I'm wondering if it's resolved, that it'll be a more comfortable environment for AP testing? I'm hearing the new gym might have problems.
New gym at the high school?
Yes.
There's no air conditioning in that space.
Okay, so what are we going to do to make it a little bit more comfortable for these kids?
It's the only large space that we have to administer exams.
They're on an altered schedule, aren't they?
But we need large spaces to administer the exams, so that's the space that was selected by the
How
school.
many kids take it at once?
It depends on the
They
exam.
take tests and different,
Right,
right.
but how many in general? Is it one class might be 20 or 50 or how many?
It depends on the class. It could be an entire grade level if it's the English.
Is it a regular day of school during AP exams?
Yes.
Okay, so while the other classes are going on. They can't do it in the auditorium, it's how many people in there? That they could be spaced out?
Right, there's
Oh,
specific
that's right.
distances away, they have to be front to back, side to side, you have to measure, it's a big deal.
Well, do they bring those guys into that?
They won't let us. They won't let us.
Do they bring them into the library?
Fans? Can't bring fans in there? Keep the doors open? Something?
Oh, don't keep doors open
Put
in our
somebody
school.
standing by the door, of course.
There are fans in there, they bring a big fan.
We don't keep doors open, we're not supposed to keep doors
Aren't
open.
there vents in the ceiling that could be
Yeah,
turned
so
on?
the rooms are vented. We use fans. We sometimes put proctors at the doors or security at the doors so that we can open the doors if it gets too hot.
Right.
Yeah, we're in a situation where we don't have any air-conditioned space that would accommodate large groups of students for
And
testing.
they can't, there's no way that they can be split up into various classrooms that I'm sure there's empty classrooms up there.
The entire,
However many
we have
kids.
multiple exams going on a day. We would have to space out the week, the testing week, pretty long, probably go to 2 weeks.
How many days are we talking about, T?
I don't know exactly. I would have to check which
It's a good
testing
part
it
of
is.
the
APs.
Oh, AP, are we talking about APs or final
AP.
exams?
AP.
And regents?
APs
APs are 2
2
weeks,
And right now,
and they're alternating days.
Well, they also use the gyms for the regions there too, correct?
Correct.
So they run into the same thing with the regions.
So is there a possibility of you to open the doors, getting additional security to man those
It,
exits? Or
once you put,
exterior of the
once you put a
building?
lot of students in that room,
They
Yeah.
no
get-
matter what
Right,
the temperature is,
so
it rises.
I
We've
guess the
looked
concern
into,
is-
we've
Can you
looked
put your
into
microphone on, Nick,
portable
please?
air conditioning.
Right. Yeah, I'm not-
It's cost prohibitive.
Thank
At this point, we don't have air conditioning, but my concern is if we have the doors open, security-wise, can we have someone, an additional person, not, because we don't have a normal.
We do
Okay,
that.
so we
We
have,
do that pretty regularly. We put
Okay.
bar in your parking lot, the doors are open.
okay, so we have
Teachers
someone
there,
monitoring
fans,
that, so
there
we
are
can,
fans at the doors.
so we have someone monitoring that, so we can have the doors open. Okay. Thank you.
Just quick, I know. 2 questions to piggyback on that.
Last person.
Are we considering air conditioning? Is that, I know that you had brought that up, Lee. Is that something that is being considered as an upgrade? I know we've done a lot of upgrades this year, but that also brings a security aspect into it because you do, in the summer months, have the lower windows open. So bulletproof all you want, you have open windows. So that's something to think about down the road. Air conditioning would prohibit having to have windows open, doors open.
I don't know if considering is the word, I don't want to say considering, but it has been a topic of conversation in different situations, whether it be
Yeah.
security, whether it be testing, whether it be whatever, I don't want to say the word considering, because I don't know what he's thinking, but it has been a topic of conversation numerous times.
Okay. And I just want to confirm that my football quote is completely anonymous. Because if my son suffers from this, we will feel a wrath. Understood?
You are on tape. You know.
Understood.
Well, I'm not seen, and
No.
I said no words, no names.
You're on there. You're seen on
You
that.
thought I was annoying now.
To convene executive session in accordance with
You have
Open
one more
Meetings Law,
person.
section 105F.
You have one more person.
Employment history and matters leading to the discipline, suspension, dismissal, removal of a particular person.
Motion.
You had one more person that was
They
standing
were
up.
past the time.
But he was standing up,
I said last
though.
person.
You got somewhere to go to?
Wow.
Come
Wow.
on, Greg. Where you gotta go? You gotta,
It's one person.
Second,
Well, I know what we're doing, but I'm not fine with it, I just don't, I don't know.
You're not gonna let him speak.
I want to go, I have, it's only gonna be 5 minutes.
This is 3 minutes.
all right, all in favor?
We're going into exec.
That's what I just made, we just made a motion.
Wow, they cut you off, Mark. You don't get to talk.
Come on, 5 minutes.
5 minutes on meeting.
5 minutes.
I'm in favor of going executive,
5
letting
minutes.
Mr. Warshaw talk.
He'll get it.
When we're done with public, that's my question, I don't have a problem with it. Go ahead, Mr. Warshaw, never gonna go into it.
it's hard enough to get out here and talk sometimes, you know? I gotta give my boy Nico a lot of credit.
Nico's great.
For a
Good
student
job,
to get out,
Nico.
he deserves a lot of credit. And I think it's important that we all pay attention to Nico, but besides that, I'm a little confused on what was going on when there was all that distraction. It seemed like it was something major, and I don't really get it.
I'll put it on
I'll
Facebook
ask
tonight.
questions about it. Or what the term, what was the word you were fighting about, somebody yelled it out?
No, it's personnel.
Evergreen, because somebody looked it up and they said that means a certain thing. What does it mean? Can I ask you guys that? Not allowed?
I'll put it on
Facebook
tonight.
No, I wanted to understand what it was about. Because it seemed like there was a big, it was a controversial vote. If I'm not mistaken, it was, like I've seen plenty of times, 3-2. Correct?
What's your point?
No, it was just the point, it was 3-2 again. I just think if it's something, we should be able to get a 5-0 vote once in a while.
I would agree with you 100%.
I
I would agree with you 100% vote.
I don't know what the subject is, I'm
District.
talking about on everything.
Yes.
It seems like there's a lot.
First of all, but you know that's not realistic.
Why not?
Traditional ways of doing a contract
You got
also.
loud before when you were getting yelled at, you got really loud.
I got loud because I was getting yelled at?
You were defending yourself.
Yes.
You don't have to be loud to defend yourself.
No.
It becomes
No.
a little
Thanks for
bullying.
the information.
So, I'm just talking, that's all.
I said thank you for the
Certain things,
information.
Okay, so it's the same, I've been yelled at plenty of times, and actually lied to plenty of times. But I store it in my bank, and we do what we have to do with it.
Mark, was your question about the Evergreen? Or
Yes. That was
you have
the-
advice for Mr. Amarante?
Not at all.
Okay, so the Evergreen
No,
weekend.
you have advice for him?
No, I don't.
You
It's
have
not-
advice for me?
No, I have no advice for anybody but
Okay, then
myself.
this is, my question is answered, you can't talk about it. Thanks, Mr. Brady.
Okay, thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, I got a motion and a second, all in favor to move into exec?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Just have 5 minutes.